Hi folks, going to give you an interesting tip on how to add some realism to your model cars. Here I have a 1/25th scale Buick Riviera 1969, and if you notice here in the engine I actually have some realistic rubber hoses, as you can see them. Very flexible, going to into the radiator, into the firewall, and they're actual real rubber hoses. And when how to get those rubber hoses, you go to a place like Hobby Lobby or Michael's, and in the bracelet section you can buy these, I guess for making bracelets. And they're hollow, very pliable and very rubber. So you're thinking, well, how do I get this to glue on? I mean, if you have this kind of tip. Alright, so what you next get is do-it-yourself copper wire. This is 20 gauge, and if you slip this, I'm doing this one-handed, so bear with me. You have 20 gauge copper wire, and you thread it into the hose. First of all, it gives you a spot here where you can attach it to the car by using just a regular drill and a pin vise. Alright, you take and you go to the firewall, you drill the hole, you stick the copper wire in just past its point here, and the good thing about this is you can shape it. So you want to make a sharp turn, there you go. I want to make another turn, there you go, and it'll hold that. Or you could just take the very end and nip it off. So there's not much in there. I'll just take it off. And you can just attach a small section of this into your body with a little piece sticking out, and then you slide this tubing. Excuse me, because I'm doing this one-handed. You gotta slide this tubing over the end, and there you have your mounting point. Now this rubber tubing is really flexible. It's different sizes. I only have this size because it works for the scale I use. Now if you have something with a larger scale, you could take a piece of regular wire like this. I don't know if you could tell, but I stripped the I took the insulated wires out, so there's nothing but the outer insulation, and that makes a pretty flexible large scale tubing for your model. I'll give you an example of how I use this. Let's put the Buick aside here. Cover it up. Here's a model where I made extensive use of that tubing. And you see I had different sizes here. You have the smaller size, smaller diameter, real small diameter up here. Yeah, on the reel. Okay. And here back around the antenna, I also wrap some of that rubber tubing around the antenna. So using this this little bracelet, it's for bracelets actually. It's for mounting stuff on bracelets, and it's very flexible. Like I said, once you get the inside in, you can run it wherever you want to, and you have a realistic tubing going on. And depending on what kind of hole you want to make, you can get these assortment of micro drills. There's a company here, Microbox. You could find these on Amazon. You just look for micro drills. You get all sizes, all the way down to like a hair. So you can make the end for your wire. The other wire I use too, which is pretty cheap, is this stuff. It's do-it-yourself copper wire, 26 gauge. It's really fine, but it bends super easy, and these are good for brake lines, fuel lines, whatever you need to make. So by combining this with this tubing, you can run it anywhere you want, any style you want. Let's see if I can get the other side of this thing. It's kind of hard because my lighting is very limited here. But there it is in the front. The real thick stuff here, that's another size. And it runs up into these connections up here. This is all that the bracelet material, just different gauges. The next little tip I'd like to give to you is what I found also by going to Hobby Lobby. Is you get this real small ribbon. It's boutique ribbon. And ladies and gentlemen, this stuff, you know, you can get any color you want. What I use it for? Seat belts. I made a whole bunch of seat belts here that I can use when I want to. Let's see if I can get this one in focus. I bent the silver wire in that shape. And then for the other end, see if I can find one here. Okay. It's not the same color, but you get the idea. Here's a black one. Alright, there's a little bit of a hook in it. Then you just get yourself a little piece of styrene. Like that. And you cut the end of the styrene, you paint it. Now just imagine this being the same color. Let's get this red one out of here. Lay that across the seat of your car, and you got seat belts. Now, if you're also working and doing military models in 1/35 scale, this stuff here is excellent for straps for rifles. If you want to sling the rifle over the shoulder, usually they have just the rifle. There's no way to, you know, you want to attach it to somebody. This stuff makes great shoulder straps. Now here's an example of a group of soldiers. I don't know if you can see, but their rifles are slung over their shoulders with this material here. I can point one out, but let's say right here. If I can get him in the light, it'll look even better. This last guy. Let's see if I can slide this over. See this guy in the back here? His rifle is slung. It's pretty close to gauge size. I know it's kind of wide, but instead of just gluing it in place, you can actually have the gun slung over the shoulder. This stuff also is good for seat belts or any kind of strapping. It's $1.99 at Hobby Lobby. It's more than you'll ever need. You can see the size. It's 1/16 by 24 feet. This roll will probably last me forever. I mean, there's a lot on here. Using this stuff, which you have 24 feet by 1/16 black, you can find brown. Makes really good shoulder straps for weapons. There's one for this guy's rifle right here. I don't know how close I can get, but it's actually slung over the shoulder. It looks better than just gluing it in place, doesn't it? Like I said, I have red and black, which I use to make seat belts. So I made a whole bunch of seat belts in advance. That's another tip. And lastly, when I showed you that copper wire, and here it is in red. This stuff's kind of stiff to work with, but if you want to make sparkplug wire, this stuff works pretty good. It even has a little bit of insulation you could take off to drill a hole, or you could drill the hole for this whole thing. That's what I do. if I want to mount this on a car, I'll take my small drill bit, make the hole. Okay, actually I have smaller drill bits that can do that. Probably the one that's way here on the end. That one there. Or the micro box assortment. Go all the way down to, what's the sizes there? I don't know if I can read them. But down to 0.3. That's pretty small. So what I did here in the Buick with that wire, I used blue. Now that silver wire I mentioned, if you notice on the brakes, if I can get a better view of it here, bear with me. I made brake lines with that. So there you go. Just some tips. Some of the things you should really pick up. I'll reiterate one more time. Is you have the stuff for making hoses. You have the wires. You have this ribbon material here for seat belts. Shoulder harnesses. That's my tips. Go to Hobby Lobby and look around at the in the sewing section, and you'll find lots of small stuff to use for your models. And also in the bracelet section for different gauge wire, stuff like that. I have a box of scraps here that I use, which is all the wires I've collected over the years, so I can make different seatbelt wires. There's that silver wire. I think this was like $3.99. $3.99. That's about the gauge you want, 26 gauge. Then I have like larger gauge. That was 26. This was 20. Battery cables, things like that. This is 30 gauge wire. So it's easy to get, and these are just some helpful hints to help you with your modeling. One last hint is a stuff called Duval Tape. I think it's D-U-V-A-L, something like that. But if you can see, it's very fuzzy. Alright, and it's peel and stick. This makes excellent carpeting in your model car. I don't know, I'm sorry I didn't have a car ready to show you, but you get the idea. You cut this stuff to shape, you put it on the floor or up behind the back seats or inside the trunk, and it simulates 1/25th scale carpeting. I think it's D-U-V-A-L. I think that's what it's called. I'm not sure. If I get the information, I'll write it in the description. But this stuff is pretty good. Instead of flocking or using embossing powder.